Welcome back, everybody, to part 4 of fixing up our 1948 REO truck. If you haven't seen the last 3 videos, I totally would recommend going back and watching them. They're not that long. I try keeping my videos around 10 minutes or so. I don't like to make super long videos if I can help it. So they're not that long. I definitely would recommend going back and watching the last 3 episodes. But if you don't want to, I'm going to go ahead and give you a little bit of a catch you up to speed on what happened in the last 3 episodes. Episode 1 basically was just us getting the truck home. It was out in the middle of a pasture of a neighbor of ours that we got it from. And so it's just us getting it home. We had to figure out a way between just our flatbed trailer, a tractor, and a chain to get the truck home to our house. Episode 2, we actually started looking at the truck. One of the main things we accomplished in episode 2 was getting the transmission into neutral. The transmission was completely locked up, and we were able to get it into neutral in episode 2. We also pulled off the head in episode 2 and realized that the cylinders were looking pretty good, but the valves were in really rough condition. Episode 3, we ended up deciding to pull out the engine from the truck. We decided that it was a little bit too much work to be doing inside the truck, so we decided to get the engine hoist to pick it up out of the truck. And so we could do a little bit more work on it outside of here, especially with those valves. Now in episode 4, we're going to be taking a look at the engine itself now in a little bit more depth as we can. We're going to be trying again, as with every episode, we're going to be trying to get it to turn over. Right now the engine is still locked up, and so the goal is to get it to turn over. So that's where we're starting off here. And so let's get right back in to episode 4. All right, so one of our next projects that we're going to be working on here now that we got the whole engine off is going to be getting this starter off and seeing if it's in any usable ability at all. Seeing what kind of condition it's in and seeing if we'll be able to reuse it or if we're going to have to get a new one. And if we do have to get a new one, where we can find a new one and that kind of sort of thing. All right, so there is the starter. It did come off. Looking in there, it doesn't look terrible, except for it's very covered. As you can tell, a rat used to live in there, and there's a bunch of rat stuff and some mud dauber stuff in there, so it's gonna take a lot of cleaning in there. But as far as like rust and stuff goes, it doesn't seem too bad actually. All right, while we were doing stuff here, we ended up breaking off a valve, so we're actually going to end up with a valve that we're going to have to replace too, which actually, looking at some of these, there were probably more valves that we were going to have to replace anyways, but yeah, that isn't what we wanted to do. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to find replacements or not. Hopefully we can, but so that did happen. All right, so I haven't been filming all of this just because it's been over a very long period of time. I've just been slowly taking things apart, messing around, looking at things. And so I'm just going to give you an overall general view of what we're looking at with the engine now, what we've done so far. So obviously we pulled it out of the truck, as you saw, and then we sat it down here on this tire after pressure washing it out a bit. And as you can see, it looks quite a bit different than just pulling it out. So we pulled off the transmission because there was a pack rat that had made a nest inside this whole clutch case. And so we had to pull off the transmission and pull out all the different clutch plates and stuff here. So we pulled all that off. We pulled off our alternator, as you can see there. We pulled off our starter, as you can see there. We pulled off this tube here that allows you to see inside of the engine. That's actually just the fill tube for the oil. Pulled off the fuel pump, and obviously we had the head already off. One of the other things we pulled off is we pulled off these two sides, these valve covers, and so now we can see the bottoms of the valves. And so actually inside here the valves look really good, as you can see. So from this point of view, actually the valves look pretty good. It's only once you get up here and once you start looking inside of there that you can see the valves get super duper rusty, which is kind of to be expected because that's where you can get moisture in there through the exhaust manifold and the intake manifold. So that's kind of to be expected. Basically what we're gonna have to do here is we're gonna have to flip the engine over somehow, take off the oil pan, pull out, probably gonna have to pull out the crankshaft with all the connecting rods and everything, so that then we can access the camshaft and pull it out so that we can maybe try to, touch on some of these valves and see if we can break them loose. All right, so my plan is going to be to just use the engine hoist here. We're going to go on to where it connected to the frame here and over there. We're going to run a bolt through the chain, kind of like how we lifted it up from the block. Lift it up, that should turn it on its side, and then we should be able to lower it back down onto this tire here, which is just our, soft padding for the ground. I think that'll work. I'm a little concerned that maybe those are too far down and it's going to want to flip over. And so we're going to have to see what I think about that. All right, so here's the setup. We're just going to run this chain here to that connection point. That chain over there bolted to that connection point. And then we ran this back up to here and over to here to keep it from, as you can see, those two connection points are towards the bottom of the engine, so I don't want it to fall way over. So to keep it from being able to fall way over, I added one head bolt on there to keep it pretty balanced. All right, so looking back, hindsight being 2020, I wish we would have drained the oil before we tried this. But I guess, we got quite a bit of oil on the ground. But I guess now we'll just let the oil that is still dripping drain out into this bucket here. And we'll have to clean up the oil that got on the ground later. All right, so I meant to film it, but somehow I must have not pressed play or something. I had it propped up there on the truck where that rock was, but I didn't get it at all. But as you can see here, we were able to get it over on its side. So now that it's now it's on its side, we can now access its oil pan here. So now we can start working on pulling the oil pan off. Once we get the oil pan off, then we can start looking at all the internals and seeing exactly what's going on in there. Yeah, hindsight being what it is, I really wish I would have drained the oil while we still had it on the truck and not had to worry about this. I've just made an absolute mess of oil everywhere. But, that just is what it is. There's nothing we can do about that. But, yeah, as you can see looking in here, you can see all of the crankshaft and everything here. And everything looks pretty good, actually. Nothing looks corroded or anything, which is to be expected. It all had oil in it. As you can see, it had plenty of oil in it. All this oil was on the ground, plus this full bucket here of oil, so it's a good thing that everything stayed lubricated and pistons all look good. And yeah, all we have to do is just access that. We're gonna have to pull out the camshaft up there. Once we get the camshaft out, then we can tap on some of those pistons and see if we can break them loose. All right, so as I said, our goal here is going to be to pull out the camshaft so that when we can tap on those valves. The issue here is just going to be messing up the timing. I really don't want to do that, but it might be inevitable at this point. Well, anyway, to do that, we're going to have to pull off this timing cover here, and to do that, we're going to have to pull off this pulley. So it's got a 1 7/16 bolt holding it on the end there. So we're going to work on that now. All right, I don't know if you just saw that. In an effort to pull off this bolt, I was actually moving the whole thing. Here, let me put this back on, see? The whole thing's moving. What on earth? I can't imagine why pulling off the bottom, it's all he's done so far that would have changed anything, but look at that. The cylinders are moving. Obviously the The valves aren't doing anything right now, but you can see the cylinders are going. So we're just gonna rock this back and forth a few times here, and wow, that's some major progress. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All right, so as you can see here, we are actually turning over really well now. This is the first time we've ever gone to turn over. I don't know why it's turning over now. All we did was pull the oil pan, so I'm not totally sure what that did. Unfortunately, though, we did break another valve. If you look right here, yeah, we broke another valve while we were turning it over. Evidently, some of these valves are a little bit, a little bit corroded enough to the point where they are breaking. So hopefully none of the other ones are going to break. So far it's been 2 exhaust valves, so you might want to check the other exhaust valves. And unfortunately, we were hoping we wouldn't have to do this because then that messes up all our timing and stuff. But we're going to have to pull the valves so that we can replace them. So that is going to become quite a bit of work, but that's something that we are willing to do. So. All right, so we got the engine unlocked up, which was just a major step forward in this project. That was basically the biggest step forward we possibly could take right now. I'm not totally sure what caused it to unlock up. All we did was take the oil pan off, and so I'm not sure exactly why that changed anything. But either way, that's a big step forward, and the biggest issue that we have now is just that we have several valves that are sticking, and also we have now 2 valves, this one here and that one there, which have broken off, which means that we are going to have to replace some valves. Looking in here, we can do that all from here without having to mess with any of the camshaft or the timing, fortunately. I'm just going to have to do a little bit of research into figuring out exactly how that whole process works and how we're going to do that. It looks like there's just a little clamp that goes on the end of the valve there. It's about like what you would expect. So we're going to have to figure out how exactly we're going to compress those springs so we can get the valves off. And then another thing, we're going to have to figure out if we can get replacement valves that are going to be the same size and everything. I'm not sure if they're standard size or not. Hopefully they will be, but that's where we're going to end today's video, getting it unlocked up and getting prepared to replace some valves. That will be next video. We'll be replacing all those valves. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd consider liking and subscribing, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Goodbye.